and welcome back to Autumn Leigh at Home. Today we are going to be making some healthy snacks for our kiddos. Our school is very strongly encouraging for our kiddos to bring some healthy snacks, for all the kids to bring healthy snacks. So today I'm going to try to take that opportunity to make a few at home. So my goal is to make some Nutr-Grain bars, or a type of Nutr-Grain bar, but from scratch, and using our homemade strawberry jam. So I will try that. And then the second thing I'm gonna try is it's spicy cheddar crackers. They kind of turn out like Cheez-Its. I've made them in the past. They turned out great, but I did not make them spicy. And I have a kid that loves spicy, all things spicy. So we're gonna try that and see how it turns out. If I have time, I would like to make some smoothies and maybe even freeze some popsicles with the leftover smoothie. So again, follow along with me if you'd like to join us and learn how to make some healthy snacks, and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm just gathering my ingredients, and we're gonna start with the dry ingredients first. And I thought that it needed to be refrigerated, but it doesn't. So, but that's okay, because that gives us more time and a chance to go ahead and get this done. So I'm just gonna get my measuring cups out, and that way we can start measuring out what all we need. I believe we need 1.5 cups of flour. Next is 1/2 cup of almond flour. Now, this is a 1/4 cup, so I'm just gonna use that because it's easier to get it out of the bag. But add it up equals 1/2 cup of almond flour. If you don't have almond flour, you can just substitute for all-purpose flour. The all-purpose flour, that would just bring it up to 2 cups of all-purpose flour instead of the almond flour. But I happen to have it, and that's what the recipe called for, so we're gonna do that. If I didn't already have it, I would not be going out to buy it. And this is 2 cups of rolled oats. Mine say old-fashioned oats, but I'm using old-fashioned instead of technically rolled oats. All right, so next I'm gonna do the brown sugar, and it says heavily packed brown sugar. Now this is the brown sugar that I made in one of my other videos that I can also add on to the end of this one. But we made it from at home, and it tastes so much better, and it's lasted such a long time. But it was also only took like 2 minutes to make. So if you're interested in that one, I can leave that one at the end of this video. But it calls for 1 cup of brown sugar. It said in the recipe to pack the brown sugar. So if you're measuring out the brown sugar, make sure you're kind of patting it down to make sure it's kind of packed hard into the cup. That way it's measuring the same as the instructions. And I may put this in the blender just to see if I can maybe get the oats a little bit more fine, because my kids, I'm afraid if I leave it those size oats, they may not eat it as easily. So I might go ahead and blend it up just a little bit to see if that helps the texture of it. And I'm hoping it doesn't make it become one big mushy ball, but we'll find out. There we go. I'm just gonna kind of pulse it a couple times and see if that helps the texture. It says 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, so I got some of our wet ingredients. It calls for vegetable oil, 3/4 cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs, and vanilla extract, which I'll look at the amount in a moment. And it does not call for cinnamon, but I know my kids love cinnamon and I love cinnamon, so I'm gonna veer off the recipe just a little bit and add a little bit of cinnamon just to give it a little extra flavor. And again, we'll see how it turns out. If it turns out terrible, it will still be oatmeal that they can eat that has flavor to it. So it's not like we're wasting it. We can still eat it for breakfast. It just would not be in the shape of a bar. I believe the recipe said for us to mix the wet ingredients in a separate spot. And since I already have this dirty, I'm just gonna use this again and go ahead and mix our wet ingredients, and then we'll add them into the dry ingredients and mix it all together. And then after that, all we have to do is roll it out, shape it, put our strawberry jam on top, and then bake it. We have our 2 eggs here. And we're gonna do 2 1/4 teaspoon. And again, if you go a little heavy-handed, that is okay, because vanilla tends to be really good. So Whoops, like that. All right, so we got a little over probably 2 1/4 teaspoon, but if you want to eyeball it too, it's not going to hurt anything to get a little extra. I am going to go ahead and add my cinnamon in there as well. All right, so I'm going to add, I believe, about a teaspoon of cinnamon. And we'll see if it turns out okay. That is me guesstimating. And now we're gonna add our vegetable oil. And all we have to do for that one is, I believe, 3/4. Let me double check. Yep, 3/4 vegetable oil. And I have a 1/4 here. So again, I'm just gonna use that instead of dirtying up another dish. I'm gonna use the one that I already have dirty, even though it's 1/4. We know it's 3/4 that we're adding. So all I have to do it is 3 times. Ooh, it smells wonderful. I can smell the cinnamon. I went ahead and started the mixer back up, and I'm just gonna add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients and see how it goes. In just a moment, I'm gonna go ahead and get started mixing that up again and turn the mixer back on. But in the meantime, while that's mixing, I'm gonna be cleaning here and getting my sheet pan ready and putting parchment down and getting it ready to be rolled out so that we can go ahead and roll it out and get going on making the rectangles. Now, I've never made these before, so I'm curious. I'm not really sure what's going to be the easiest route to do it. If maybe I should roll them out on the counter and then try to transfer them, or if I should attempt to roll them out and flatten them out on here. The only concern with the counter is I'm afraid I'm going to break them transferring them to the pan. But if I put them on the pan, then the roller, you can't really use it. So I'm trying to figure out what the best route is. So I guess time will tell. I think I probably should do it on the baking sheet. I'm a little nervous if I try to do it on the counter and then transfer it, it's just gonna be a big old mess. So I'm gonna put it on the baking sheet and try to get it rolled out the best I can. I may spray this too, because I don't want it when we're all done and they finally are baked, I don't want it to all stick together. And I think pulsing the rolled oats in the blender actually turned out really good, because I still see oats in there, so we didn't get all of them, but we got them enough to where they're not, if they bite down on the Nutr-Grain bar, it's not going to be all rolled oats and like full oats, and that way it tastes a little bit more soft. See if I can actually use this on here. I may not be able to, but we're gonna try. Ooh, it's sticking to it. You know what? Let's try this. Parchment paper is up here. I'm going to try to put another piece of parchment paper over it and see if we can do it that way. That way it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. And if I do that, then I can put this on the counter and roll it out a lot easier. There we go. All right. And I'll have to peel it off of the parchment paper, but that would be a lot easier than what the other route I was trying to take. So we'll try it this way and see if it helps. And the instructions say 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so we can always roll this back up if we cut it and it's not cutting quite right. We can always roll some pieces back up and straighten them out. But parchment paper definitely for the win, because that worked out great. So I'm gonna use my pizza slicer here and just try to cut them in pretty rectangular shapes. All right, so I got my strawberry jam here, and these are actually strawberries that we picked from a local farmer. In the moment, I'm just gonna dab a little bit of this in the center of each one. And what I may do is actually just put these together as they are and see how we're doing. It said to be careful not to put too much, so we're gonna try. I'm just gonna take the one that it's beside and kind of fold it over because that seemed like an easier route. And then just kind of pinch it shut. And this actually is looking pretty good, so we'll see how it turns out. I'm just gonna pinch the edges shut. I didn't put a whole lot in, I just put like a little dollop. And then I'm gonna sit it over here on the edge of the parchment paper and keep doing the same with all the others. They're not as difficult to transfer as I thought they were gonna be too. I thought they were gonna kind of be oozing apart. So they are oozing a little bit, but not near as much as I was expecting them to. So that's good news because it makes it easier to transfer if I need to. And the first time doing a recipe is always the hardest just because it's such a new, it's a new recipe. So you don't know the tricks of the trade of getting it done. So again, that's where you want to give yourself grace if you're trying something new, and it's always fun to try new things. And as you do it, you'll come up with ways of doing it that are easier that somebody else may have already known. So like the parchment paper, that was something that I'm really thankful that we figured out was the easiest route to do this, because it could have gotten a lot messier, but the parchment paper is definitely helping with that. So as you do recipes, you'll find that the more you play around with it, the more you realize that you find ways of doing it a lot quicker too. Too much. I was supposed to do every other one. Okay. Well, I made a little bit more of a mess for myself, but that is okay. You live, you learn. This is what they're looking like a little more close up. They're looking pretty good. They're holding together better than I thought they would. All right, so that's about how thin you want to see it right there. And it's kind of hard to see. You want to see it pretty thin. And I'm going to make these a little bit smaller just because I'm curious if there's going to be a difference in the ones that are smaller versus the ones that are bigger and how they cook, and if they get a little more crispy and not as gooey. So I might make these into like little squares instead of rectangles. And just put a little dot in between, in the middle. I remembered not to do the other side this time. Look how pretty that is. And you can kind of see, I'll get closer. You can kind of see how it's puffed up in the middle. That looks good. And that was our last one. So I'm gonna get these in the oven. Our oven is we preset our oven to 350 degrees. And I'm gonna get these in the oven and then double check the time that I need to bake these for. That looks pretty though. Look how great these look. Whoa, don't mess up our, there, that looks a little better. Okay, so we have the oven set for 350 and we're gonna put these in for about 12 to 15 minutes is what the recipe says. I'm gonna set my alarm for 11 minutes. That way we just are making sure that they don't burn, because my oven tends to cook a little bit faster, especially one side versus the other side, and I'm not really sure why. All right, so it's been 11, 12-ish minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and take them out. They're looking pretty good. They're starting to kind of become brown on the edges. Get another, here we go. Now I can show it to you. I'll hold the parchment paper this time. We're just gonna let them fully cool here on this stove. And then I'm gonna put pause on my making snacks for just a moment. I've gotta go get my kids from school. And then when we come back, we'll make the spicy cheddar crackers / Cheez-Its, and then as well as the smoothies for my kids. So it's good timing because that way they can actually enjoy the smoothies.
Whoa! What is it? Look at this. Can I eat one?
Sure, do you want to try one? You want to try one?
Wait, do they have strawberry?
They do. What? So I think there's mixed reviews on this, and some like it, some don't. I actually thought it was pretty good. It tastes like, I think it just depends on if you like Nutr-Grain bars, because this tastes like what you would taste in a Nutr-Grain bar. It tastes pretty good, I thought. And the little bit on the inside is just the perfect amount. And I definitely am glad I added the cinnamon, because that added just a little bit more flavor to it as well.
Wow, this is good.
All right, so my kids are back from school and I'm back in the kitchen and they are ready for a snack. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the smoothie so they can have that as their afternoon snack, and then make the rest of it into popsicles as well. But all we have to do is grab some milk and some fruit and or vegetables. I'm gonna do all fruit this time just because it's been a while since we've made a smoothie, and that way my kids can enjoy it. Okay, so here I have bananas, which are gonna be my base for it, bananas and milk. So I'm gonna put anytime I have bananas that are about to go bad, this is kind of a quick preservation thing that I can do, and just break them in half and throw them in the fridge. So that way I know that I have some bananas for smoothies later if I want them. And that way I'm not wasting any bananas if I don't have time to dehydrate them or do something else with them. I can just throw them in the freezer real quick. If you do not have frozen bananas, you can just do regular bananas, and that's fine too. I put this is the amount of 2.5 bananas, since that's what I have. I'm not gonna leave a half of one in there. And then they wanted to have peaches. So again, this was back when I was preserving peaches. I just had some random leftover peaches. So I'm gonna add frozen peaches. And then here's some frozen strawberries that we had left over for when I went to the strawberry patch with my family. All right, I added some milk to it, so all I have so far is banana, peaches, strawberries, and milk. And we're gonna see if we need to add more milk, but I can always add more later, I just can't take it back out. It's okay though, we'll let it thaw for a minute. Strawberry just for fun. This is the kind of fun thing about smoothies, is you can make it what you want it, and you can add whatever ingredients. So if there's certain flavors, like I'm not a huge banana fan, but my kids like them, so I think that's where you just gotta get to have fun with it. This is gonna be really messy. Not too bad. And then I may have some extras, and I may try to do yogurt bites. Like freeze them.
Can I stick these in the...
Sure, you wanna stick those in?
Mm-hmm.
So this side goes up and the side with the holes goes down. Yep, there you go. Ooh, look how pretty. Wow. Look how pretty, good job. All right, so now we have our smoothies right there. our popsicles, and I might go ahead and try to make them into yogurt bites for them to eat out of the freezer. So what I'll show you how I do that. And this is gonna be my first time trying it, but I'm gonna see how it works. Okay, so I have a lot of smoothie left over, and I was trying to think of a good way to use it and not have to waste it, since we already filled our strawberry or our popsicle containers and we already drank our smoothies. So I'm gonna see if I can try to make strawberry bites where I kind of put a little dollop on the parchment paper and then stick them in the freezer and see how they turn out. Okay, so we're just gonna see how this turns out. This is more of an experiment, and I'm just gonna see if it works or not, and I'll just put the rest of this in the fridge. Next time I know just not to make as much. Okay, so our oatmeal bars are finished. They're over here and they are fully cooled, so I went ahead and put them in the mason jar. Next, we're going to do our crackers, our sourdough, cheddar, spicy cayenne crackers. I have one son who loves spicy food, so this one's for him, and we are going to try a new recipe. Last time I did this was cheddar crackers, and they turned out fantastic. This time I'm putting a little bit of a spin on them. I found a recipe for my sourdough starter discard that allows me to use the discard for my sourdough instead of having to use sourdough. It's just a way for us to use up the discard, as well as the kids loved the cheddar crackers last time, and this time we're gonna put a little bit of a spiciness to them and see how they turn out. This is Luke, his name is Luke. He's gonna be helping me make the crackers today. We're gonna start with shredding the cheese. You washed your hands? Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks good. That's okay. You can eat some. A little bit. He said that it tastes good.
So at this point in the day, the life just got a little crazy and the kids got really loud. And instead of taking my time to constantly have to yell at them to stay quiet just for me to film, I don't want to spend my time doing that with them, mainly because this filming YouTube videos is just a hobby for me and I really enjoy it. I enjoy being in the kitchen. I've enjoyed filming these videos, but I don't want my hobby to get in the way of me being a mom. Me being a mom comes first, and I'm really thankful and blessed to have my children. So I don't want to be yelling at them just to try to get a quiet video. So from here, I transition to me doing a voiceover. That way I can explain what we're doing in the videos. But right here, moving forward, I'm just kind of signing to Luke and talking to him about which ingredients and how to add up ingredients and fractions, and trying to teach a little math in the process. But right now he is adding a half a cup of all-purpose flour. And then I'm just going to go ahead and list all the ingredients, and you can see me kind of put them in as we go. But it's a half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, half a cup of sourdough starter discard, unfed. And again, I will explain that here in a moment after I list the ingredients. 2 tablespoons of softened butter, a half a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and at the end, we will brush it with olive oil and sprinkle with sea salt. However, I didn't have sea salt, so I just went ahead and did normal salt, and they turned out just fine. This recipe in particular is a sourdough discard recipe. I'm sure there are other recipes you can find online that do not use sourdough discard or sourdough. However, this one uses the sourdough discard. And so when I said fed versus unfed earlier, a fed sourdough starter is when you have taken flour and water and allowed it and mixed it in, allowed it to sit over about 6 hours to 12 hours. And that is a fed one, because then you'll start seeing all those bubbles and it will rise. An unfed sourdough starter is when you maybe fed it the day before and it's been a day, so it has risen and fallen, and now you're just needing to use up the discard, and that way you're not having to throw it away, so that you can feed it again and then place it back in the fridge. So we typically allow ours to sit in the fridge for about a week or so at a time, and I use them for recipes like this or waffles or other things that use the discard. And then if I wish to make a loaf of sourdough bread, then I can feed it and use it as a fed starter. So it's been really nice to have and very versatile. But again, this is one that uses the discard, and it's nice because they have fallen in love with these crackers. While I was explaining the sourdough discard and being fed versus unfed, you'll see in the background or see the video showing that we mixed all the ingredients. I then took the ingredients out, and this recipe says that we're supposed to allow the dough or the mixture to rest in the refrigerator for 1 to 2 hours. Ours rested a little bit longer than that just because we got caught up with life.
And now I have the oven preheated. We are going to get started on the cheddar crackers. Earlier you saw me mixing them with Luke, and I've been letting the dough rest in the fridge for 1 to 2 hours. It's been a little more than 2 hours just because I got caught up with dinner and bedtime and all the usual routine, and that comes first. So I'm gonna pull it out now and we'll go ahead and finish up. Next, sorry, that was kind of loud. Next, I'm gonna take it out and roll it out. And I'm gonna do the parchment trick again because that worked so well the last time, and I would definitely recommend doing that. And that way it's easy for me to roll it out and cut it, and then I can easily maneuver it onto here. And I may cut it once it's on the tray, but I can at least roll it out and do it while it's on the counter. All right, so before I cut it, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer it to the tray or the cooking pan. And then the recipe says to lightly oil the top with olive oil and then sprinkle sea salt on it. I don't have sea salt, so I'm gonna go ahead and just use normal salt, and I'm sure that that will be just fine. So here I'm just taking the fork and I'm puncturing each little cracker about 3 times or so. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this allows it to not rise up. It helps it to stay kind of more flat like you would want with a cracker. If you don't do this, again, it's fine. It will still taste great. It just will be more like a biscuit or a little biscuit. All right, I finished with puncturing all of them. That's what it looks like right now. And then we're gonna go ahead and stick this in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Now again, my oven tends to cook a little faster than others. So anytime it says 20 to 25 minutes, I like to put mine in for more like 18 minutes, or put a timer for 18 minutes, and then I'll take a look at them. And usually mine finishes faster than what the recipe calls for. So this says the oven needs to be 350 degrees. And our oven is finished preheating, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick these in. So while the crackers are finishing cooking, they're in the oven right now, I went ahead and got our yogurt bites back out, and I wanted to see, this was just more of a test to see how they would do and to see if it's something that I would want to try in the future. Ooh, they're slippery. This is what they look like out of the freezer, and all I did was take this smoothie and just put little dollops on some parchment paper and stick them in the freezer. And if they taste good, then I can just, now that they're frozen, stick them in a little baggie, and they would be like little yogurt bites, kind of like you would find for little toddlers, but anybody can eat them because they're just yogurt. Now that actually turned out really good. I know my daughter will really like these, so this is something that I can try in the future for a healthy snack. It's kind of like having Go-Gurt, but with little bites. That's what it tastes like, is Go-Gurt. And you know when you can freeze the Go-Gurts in the freezer, that's what the texture of these, that's what it tastes like. So that actually worked out really great. So I'm gonna bag these up and stick them back in the freezer, and that way they can be snacks, a healthy snack for later on. So it is the end of the day, and today we got a lot done. We got our spicy cheddar crackers finished, as well as our oatmeal bars that are kind of the same thing as Nutr-Grain bars. And these turned out fantastic. I had mixed review with my kids, but I think that was mainly just because some of the ones that tried it didn't care for this type of snack in the first place, let alone this one. But I would very much recommend this recipe. This recipe turned out great. It was not too hard, not too soft. It was just right. It was perfect. So if you're looking for a healthy snack, and I will link that one down in the description. So go ahead and check out the recipe there. We also were able to make smoothies out of frozen fruit and turn it into smoothies. And because we had a lot of that left over, I went ahead and made popsicles and yogurt bites with the smoothies. Popsicles didn't turn out fantastic. The taste was great, but the texture, I had a hard time getting them out in one piece. And so I don't know if I would recommend that as much. And I guess I could try a different texture there, but the yogurt bites where I just took a little bit of the smoothie and put a little dollop and froze them that way, those turned out wonderful. I know my girls are gonna absolutely love those. So that is definitely something that I can keep in mind for the future, especially with leftover smoothies. But we got a lot done today. I just wanna take the time to say thank you so much for joining me and taking time out of your day to join me. If you have anything that has worked with your family, of course, comment below. I would love to hear ideas of recipes and different things that have worked well for your family. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I appreciate you guys joining me. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Is it yummy? Good.